Hey loves, welcome in, welcome in. I am your host, Ashley, and this is another podcast episode of Ashley Loves True Crime Honey. I am so happy to have you guys in here today. I hope that everybody has had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that everything went off with a hitch, or without a hitch, is what they would say. I know that my Christmas was full of love and laughter. I was able to gift my son his iPad and surprise him with that. He got plenty of clothes this year. I told people I did not want any toys. I wanted to focus on getting him clothes. So my family got him clothes for the winter into that, spring, sort of fall era we're getting into. So I was very blessed for that and just very happy that I was able to, just have a merry Christmas with my family and my friends. This year has been such a traumatic year for my family and I. So this Christmas was just very soft and it was very loving and very warm. I was able to make a Christmas dinner for my immediate family, my sisters, my brother, my dad, my stepdad, and my mom came over. My niece, and of course, my son was there. I made stuffed hens. I did cornbread dressings, which I believe the ancestors would have been so proud of me. I and because I made the cornbread from scratch, I also went ahead and made I just got crazy. I made macaroni and cheese. I did greens with a combination of cabbage for the first time, which was chef's kiss. My sister loved it. I made deviled eggs, yams, which is a whole nother story we'll have to get into. Um, I guess the craziest part of my Christmas was that I fell down a flight of stairs. Um, trying to just do too much. I was working from home. I was on a 15-minute break. I was like, let me go upstairs and take the load from the laundry and let me bring it upstairs. On my way back down the stairs, I saw something on the floor. I went to bend down to pick it up. I heard my phone beep, and before I can say, oh, I wonder who's calling me, boom, down goes Ashley. No love for the stairs. And so that sort of took me out of commission. I did not have the greatest attitude for Christmas just because I was in so much pain and I was trying to hide the pain, which is another topic in itself. I had to go in the corner and decompress about that because I'm like, I know you fail, but we'll have to suck it up so we can get through this Christmas. So that was my Christmas. Again, comment down below. Tell me how your Christmas was. Did you enjoy your time with your family? Was there anything particular or funny that happened that you want to share? I would love to hear about it. Message me, in the comment section if you're on my other live platforms. Hit me up in my DMs, or what I call them the DMs, but the DMs. And let's just chop it up about Christmas. And then, New Year's is coming up. So I need to know, what is your New Year's resolution? For me, I don't really have one in particular. I just want to continue to stay healthy, continue on my journey of just becoming the best me that I can. I look forward to starting a new chapter in 2026. So I'm just open for whatever God has for me. I'm not going to just be too beholden upon a list, but I do look forward to what God has for me. So let's get it cracking. So I have decided to name you guys honeybees. Now, if you feel like there's a better name for you guys, comment down below. Say, hey, I don't like you calling me a honeybee. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But I liked it, because this is Ashley Loves True Crime, honey. And, since we want to get to the sticky, icky truth and get to the matter of the point, I decided, why not call y'all my honeybees? Because we're working hard to get to the truth here. We're working hard to narrow it down. And so, just a little. So, again, if you don't like the name, just let me know. But let's get into it, okay? So, honeybees, I want to welcome you guys back again, like I said, to Ashley Loves True Crime. I'm your host, Ashley Love. And Before we get into today's case, I want to take a quick moment to say this. Everything discussed in this episode is for informational and educational purposes only. This story is publicly available reports and court documents available at the time of recording. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The views shared here are my own, and this is not legal, medical, or psychological advice. Listeners' discretion is advised. Now, with that said, let's talk about why I chose this case. We're in the new year, about time you're going to listen to this, and this incident happened about a year ago. But the question it raises are still very much alive. This isn't just a shocking headline, it's a story about anger, morality, mental health, and what can happen when someone's moral compass stops pointing north. Today's episode is called When the Moral Compass Breaks: Wrath, Justice, and the Mind. And we're not just talking about what happened, we're talking about why it matters, especially as we move forward and try to do better with our minds, our emotions, and our healings. Tonight's cited sources come from fox26houston.com, www.theroot.com, and click2houston.com. So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and let's get into it. When the moral compass breaks: wrath, justice, and the mind. This isn't just a bizarre headline. It's a moment that forces us to talk about something deeper: the human psyche, pain, unresolved trauma, and the lines we draw or cross when we think justice hasn't been served. So here's what we know. Back on February 7, 2025, authorities in Houston, Texas arrested 34-year-old embalmer Amber Page Laudermilk after a disturbing incident at Houston's Memorial Mortuary and Crematorium. According to court documents, Laudermilk was with a student when they were examining the body of Charles Roy Rodriguez, a man who had died of natural causes earlier that January after a stint in the hospital. Rodriguez wasn't just a random person. He was a registered sex offender, having received a deferred adjudication following a sexual assault charge. But here's where the story gets really disturbingly strange. Court documents say that Laudermilk stabbed Rodriguez's genitals area with a scalpel and then castrated the corpse and allegedly placed the severed body parts into the deceased's mouth before the body was prepared for cremation. She was charged with abuse of a corpse and was arraigned in court with the bond set at $5,000, which the arraignment was on March 2025. This case is still pending. This was all in the presence of an embalming student at the time of the incident. According to the document, she turned to the student and said, "You didn't see anything." She also threatened other students and other employees, allegedly. The other witnesses who showed up later on noticed that Rodriguez's groin was disfigured. When asking Laudermilk what happened, she reportedly replied that Rodriguez had a lot going on with him. A complaint was filed with the local authorities on February 19th, and as I said, the rest is history. What does abuse of a corpse actually mean? A lot of people hear abuse of a corpse and immediately think that sounds minor compared to everything else. But legally and morally, it's a very serious charge. So, in most states, including Texas, abuse of a corpse means knowingly treating a human body in a way that would outrage ordinary family sensibilities. In other words, if the average person would find the treatment of the body shocking, degrading, or disrespectful, it can qualify. What actions can lead to this charge? Abuse of a corpse can include mutilation or dismemberment, sexual acts involving a body, desecration or defilement, hiding or improperly disposing of remains, treating a body in a way that shows extreme disrespect. It does not matter what the person did while alive. Once someone has died, the law treats the body as deserving dignity, period. This is a criminal offense, and it's set to protect the dignity of the deceased, protect grieving families, and maintain public trust in medical, funeral, and legal systems. When someone in a position of authority, like an embalmer, violates that trust, the law responds strongly. In Texas, our alleged offender with the abuse of a corpse will be looking at a felony. And that can mean up to 2 years in a state jail facility, fines up to $10,000, and permanent criminal record if convicted. Even if no one has physically harmed, the violation of ethical, legal, and societal norms is taken seriously. But let's talk about the why. Okay, so honeybees, we can all agree the actions alleged here are unusual, but that's exactly why this story is so interesting from a psychological and moral perspective. We live in a culture that throws around terms like justice and karma, but rarely do we wrestle with what that actually looks like when someone takes things into their own hands. Rodriguez's past offenses are not something I'm defending by any means. No one should escape accountability for harm done. But what happened after his death isn't just justice, it's something else entirely. What we're really talking about here is unresolved rage. When someone's internal moral compass collapses, whether from trauma, bitterness, or a belief that no one else will ever deliver justice, their decisions might no longer be guided by reason or law, but by emotion. And that's a scary place to be. One site that talked about the incident, it was such a shocking crime. And it just really raised my eyebrows. And I could not help but to wonder what was on the mind of our perpetrator. And I looked very deep, you guys. And since this is a pending trial, I have no inkling at this point. This may have to become a part two so we can understand what the psyche and the mind frame truly was of uh, the person who harmed Mr. Rodriguez and why she decided to do this. From what I heard and what I researched, she was an embalmer and had been embalming at that mortuary and was actually, like I said, a teacher and was teaching others how to embalm. I would love to continue to follow this case and see what happens. But as I said, we're here for some hard truths. And here's something we don't like to talk about: wrath and justice are not the same thing. When trauma isn't dealt with, when it's buried, ignored, or turned inward, it can wrap how someone sees the world. And instead of clarity, it gives you distortion. Instead of justice, it gives you vengeance. And instead of healing, it leaves a bigger wound. And I feel that is what really was happening with her. She had some deeply unresolved trauma. Paige was someone who was highly educated, who was in her field and had many passions. Yet she had no passion for the very thing she pledged never to do, which is to do no harm. Even in any medical field, that is the whole purpose, is to do no harm. So, I always have to wrap it up in a nice sweet bow. There's a biblical perspective on wrath and forgiveness because, we're honeybees and we want substance, not just shock value. Let's look at what scripture says about this tension. The Bible speaks plainly about wrath. Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, it is mine to avenge, I repay, says the Lord. And Paige definitely should have kept that in her mind and her spirit as she was directing and teaching others. And also keeping that in her spirit as she was dealing with bodies consistently. I want them to sort of deep dive and look deeper into her because I feel like this may not have been her first offense dealing with wrath. This verse that I spoke on, Romans 12:19, this verse isn't about excusing harm. It's about boundaries, about understanding that when humans take vengeance into their own hands, destruction follows. Another verse reminds us how unchecked anger corrodes the soul. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil. That's Psalms 37:8. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It does not mean forgetting, it does not mean excusing, and it does not mean abandoning justice. But forgiveness does mean refusing to let hatred turn you into something unrecognizable. And I feel like that's what happened with Paige. My final reflection on this case isn't just about a crime committed after death. It's about what happens before that moment inside a person's mind. It's about mental health left unaddressed, about trauma that metastasizes, about how easily righteousness can turn into cruelty. And it's a reminder that crossing moral lines doesn't bring healing, it creates more wreckage. Justice matters, accountability matters, but so does protecting our own humanity in the process. Because when the moral compass stops, there's no telling how far someone will go. Before we wrap this up, I want to do a call to action. I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me, do you think this crossed a moral line? Or do you think unresolved trauma played a bigger role here? Where do you believe justice ends and vengeance begins? And listen, I want to say this clearly because it matters. I talk a lot about hard truths on this podcast, but one of the biggest ones is this: mental health is not optional, it's not a luxury, it's maintenance. I'm in therapy myself. I use Talkspace. They're not a sponsor yet, wink, wink, but I believe in saying what actually helps. Therapy has taught me how to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of letting them explode into something harmful. Because when pain doesn't have a place to go, it will find one. And sometimes that place causes damage you can't undo. If this episode made you uncomfortable, reflective, or emotional, that's okay. That's the work. But don't ignore what it brings up for you. Talk to someone, journal it out, get support, protect your mind. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Ashley loves true crime, honey, so we can keep having real conversations, not just about crime, but about the human mind behind it. And remember, honey, healing is strength, accountability is power, and choosing help is never weakness. I'll see you on the next one. Love, and always stay sweet out there, honey.